Welcome to another week of the Leading Young podcast. My name is Eric Lyde, and I am so excited that you are joining us today. We have got an outstanding conversation lined up for you today between myself and Jeremy Redman, and this content about leading through uncertainty it really is a great conversation. I'm so excited to share it with you. You're going to really enjoy it. But first, if you haven't yet, head over to leading-young.com and subscribe to the website. This will keep you up to date with all the latest content from Leading Young, as well as follow us on social media, leading_young on Instagram and Twitter, and Leading Young blog at Facebook. So be sure to get on our social media, like and share this stuff, as we just appreciate all your support. And it's going to be a great conversation today with Jeremy. So without further ado, here's my conversation with Jeremy Redman. Well, hello, Jeremy, and welcome to the Leading Young podcast. Really excited to have you here today. Appreciate you taking some time out of your quarantine schedule, which if it's like any of the rest of us, it's just jam-packed, I'm sure, with mainly kid watching, I bet.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yes, that's full up, kid on all day, every day.
Yeah. So for those of you that are joining us, Jeremy, we're really excited that Jeremy is on here today. He wrote a blog post for us a little bit last week that was loaded up live to the leading-young.com blog post. And it was such a good post, such good things to say. I said, Jeremy, you've got to come on the podcast so we can dive deeper into a little bit of these. And so a lot of you listening probably know Jeremy. Hopefully there's a lot of you listening that don't. And so he just brings a ton of insight and wisdom into many years from leading many different types of ministries. And he is a big part of where I'm at today. And so I'm really glad that he's here. So Jeremy, just give us a little background on yourself so the people that don't know you can know who you are.
Yeah, no, again, my name is Jeremy Redman, and let me start by saying how excited I am to be here on the Leading Young podcast. I have loved watching your ministry develop, and I've been honored to have a seat to see that and to see what you're doing with young people and leadership alike. My wife and family and I, we live in Jefferson City, Missouri, and we've been doing ministry for 13 years, and like you said in the intro, just all kinds of different facets of ministry. And we are trying our best to survive this Corona COVID-19 season and not kill each other in the meantime. But no, man, we're loving life and excited to be here today.
Yeah, it is. What I've learned through my Corona experience is that the kitchen is constantly messy, no matter how many times you clean it. We are cooking a lot more, apparently. I guess now that we've been home more, so we're doing a lot of cooking, a lot of cleaning, and it is amazing what you have 3 kids. I've only got 2, and really only one of them is active. It is amazing to watch the destruction that one child can have on a household in a matter of minutes.
Absolutely. No, we go in spurts, and we will clean up and we will tackle things, which I guess, at least if nothing else, this pandemic has made us a lot more clean conscious and washing hands and disinfecting. But man, we will have it done looking, show ready. And in a matter of minutes, the tornado has swept through the home and just obliterated all of our hope in humanity. Yeah.
Yeah. It's gone. The other day I mopped, and Adrian, my wife, and Blakely, my daughter, had been outside playing around in the yard. And as soon as they came back in, the muddy boots came with them. And I mean, you talk about a real representation of the defeat and hopelessness that a lot of us are feeling in this quarantine season. That pretty well summed it up. I said, I will remember this because that will preach someday. That will be a sermon illustration.
I will wait for the sermon Muddy Boots, and that will be amazing.
Yeah, that's the future blog post probably coming your way. So, but speaking of blogs, like I said, Jeremy wrote a blog post called Leading Through Uncertainty. And obviously right now, whether you lead a business, a ministry, a family, or are a part of just anything, just life right now is very uncertain. And so it was a very timely post, very timely words and really very timely just suggestions and things that can help us all during this time. So to start, I just kind of want to dive into, you had 4 points that you kind of said that we needed to kind of remember, and some of the things that you said that God's kind of shown you, revealed to you during this time of uncertainty. And so I just kind of want to go through those points, each one, and talk through those and let you kind of expand a little bit more on those. And so the first part of that was reminding yourself of your mission. Reminding yourself of your mission. So first off, what do you mean by your mission? Explain that a little bit.
Like a mission or a vision statement, mission statement for a church, an organization, your own life and family and your purpose is really, just what is the purpose of you doing what you do? What and how, seldom wakes you up in the morning. Maybe they stress you out and maybe they cause anxiety, but the thing that makes you want to pop up, do it again, put in the reps, put in the time is your why. Simon Sinek, great thought leader in our day, says begin with why, start with the why, and then everything else seems to follow suit. And so whenever things look bleak and things are hard and challenging, man, you just have to remind yourself of why you do what you do. Who are you trying to make a difference for? It's more than just make a profit. It's more than just have a good quality of something. It's a matter of, are you making a difference? And what is it that drives you to impact, whether it be the big world or just your world? Missions help you accomplish something that lives on long after you're done with life. And so I say, whatever is the reason you do what you do and how you do it, that's your why, that's your mission. And I think whenever things are hard, that's what you got to remind yourself of daily, multiple times a day, is the why you do what you do. Because if you're relying just on the how and the what, eventually it may get too tough.
Yeah, and I think it's become really clear for those businesses, ministries, whatever, if you were unclear on your why, that's made this time even harder because, like you said, the how and the what have really been kind of taken from us, and how we would normally carry out business, carry out ministry is completely gone. And so is it too late? Like if you're sitting there listening to this right now and I'm thinking, I don't really know my why. How can I find my why? Is it too late to know my why at this point?
No, absolutely not. Because we've always had a why. And for the most part, most of us, and there are probably organizations and businesses that have probably scoffed at, we don't need to have a mission statement, a vision statement, a purpose statement, or we don't need to talk about culture and, things of that nature. But the truth is you already have all those things. You already have a vision, a culture, you have mission statements already, whether you say them and acknowledge them or not. But you have a driving force. And no, to answer your question, I think, can you put into words that statement or that, vision in your mind? Absolutely. Can you take a different route? Can you discover something new whenever things are hard? And that, wow, my purpose is to meet this need and to allow for this to take place. And if I don't do it, nobody else can do it the way I can. I think that now is the time with self-reflection where we do have some time, and, maybe you aren't as self-assured in managing your process as you are as innovating a process. And so, I think now is a great time to either revamp or to establish, maybe for the first time into words or print, what your mission really is. Why do you do what you do, and how come you need to do it? And I think you could take some good steps that way.
That's great. I think when the why is clear, your next point is a lot simpler, or maybe is a little bit easier to do. So your next point, number 2, is life isn't controllable, so be adaptable. I think when we know our why, it's much easier to adapt the why, right? When we're married to the method instead of the mission, the mission can get lost. But it's easy to replace the method. It's hard to replace the mission.
Right.
And so what are your thoughts on that? Life isn't controllable, so be adaptable.
Yeah, man, you're right. I was just, as you were laying that out, my mind went to this idea of why being your foundation. And if your method or your what and your how is your foundation, I mean, if that was true, wow, you're in trouble. If you did not build on why, whenever you lost your foot traffic, you lost one-on-one real people relations, or if that is it, then yeah, you're not sinking, but you're working really, really
Mhm.
hard new normal and try to create a new normal, if that's even a thing we can get to right now. But that's the thing. We have a script. Every one of us writes it out, whether we say it or not. We have plans, we have expectations. And one of the greatest heartaches in the world always is our unmet expectations. Family members will get sick, loved ones will disappoint you, spouses will disappoint you, jobs get lost, you don't get picked for that team, or you don't get that promotion or what you expected. But how you find your leadership, in a lot of ways, because it really makes you the difference between a decent manager or a good leader. And I believe that it is in these times where being flexible, shooting off, off the cuff, from the hip, will really make it to where you are better prepared to meet the needs of the people that depend on you. And because that's the thing, if you're a leader, people are and you need to be able to adapt for their benefit and for yours.
Yeah, you got a line segment which is quoted, so that means it's filled and it's important.
Yeah.
But it's just because God is up to something doesn't mean you can do nothing. Now, I would imagine probably yourself, if you felt anything like me, and if you're listening to this, if you felt anything like me during this time, there's been times when you do feel a little bit helpless. I'm a type 7, so going and doing and new experiences and people are all very important, as I believe you're a 7 as well,
Mm-hmm.
correct, on the Enneagram.
Yep.
And so
Yep.
there has been many times where I've been sitting and I go, what can I do? Like, is there something
Right.
I can do? And so I guess this line is an encouragement to me that
Mm-hmm.
just because God is up to something doesn't mean you can do nothing. What are your
Yep.
thoughts with that statement?
Yeah. So I was reading in one of my favorite passages in the Bible comes from the book of Proverbs, and it's 16:9, where it says, "We can make our plans, but the Lord determines our steps." And as a Jesus follower and as a Christian, I am looking to the Lord in these difficult times. I am looking for purpose in the disaster. I'm looking for lessons that come from heartache and disappointment. And so whenever we read this, if you believe like I do and you do and others, like that God's got this, it's ultimately God's call. It's ultimately God's moving the direction and moving the needle. But if I can, that doesn't discount me from doing my part. Sometimes when faced with adversity, a lot of us like to shut down and we curl up into a ball, but you keep moving. You keep going. So just because opposition comes doesn't mean that we still don't fight. Doesn't mean that we still don't keep going. That's where muscles come in. When muscles are stretched and they're tired and they're beat down, whenever we keep moving on, that's where the growth and the strengths develop. You know, so I feel like we have to keep staying the course. We have to be doing adaptable. Just because we hit a wall doesn't mean we can't adjust and keep going in a similar trajectory. So, I think about leaders in this season. This is a great time to grow. This is a great time to take in content, to listen to podcasts and watch YouTube videos, get some TED Talks in, read some great books, whether that be leadership, whether that be thought development, whether that be financial growth, whatever it may be for you. Just letting your mind think great thoughts and take in thoughts from great thinkers. I think this is a time where part of our adaptability is our teachability, is our ability to keep learning. And I think the greatest leaders are lifelong learners. So be adaptable.
Yeah, that's excellent. Yeah, I think I found myself, those first couple of days, of course, you didn't really understand, I don't think, even then what was lying ahead of us as far as this lockdown and quarantine. But I am very much a doer, a mover. I don't like to sit still. I don't like to feel like I'm not being productive.
Mm-hmm.
And those first couple of days were very much, I was honestly throwing a little bit of a pity party. I would say, just kind of like I've lost this outlet. I can't do this now. Man, this was just getting going, or we were just getting momentum here. And now that is just all gone, all put on pause.
Oh, yep.
And I had to sit, and then it finally kind of hit that, Eric, you've been for a long time, saying you need more time to do this, or you wish you could do this if only you had more time to do this. And now you've got the time. And so it really has been, after I kind of got done throwing my pity party and, self-wallowing in a bag of Cheetos and whatever else your quarantine food of choice is, I almost became more motivated than normal, because I know that, hopefully this season is going to end, and we're going to be kind of thrown back into maybe not ministry as it was exactly, but probably a fairly similar idea of what we were doing before this. And so I know that day is ahead. So I'm trying to use this time, like you said, as much time to put out content that normally I couldn't or wouldn't get to put out, and learn. And that's I love that you mentioned that, because I have made, and you have helped a lot with this. I have tried to become more of a reader for many years now. This has been a goal. And I find that, now I've got plenty of time to sit down and go through the many books that I've purchased at conferences or whatever, that we've all got the bookshelf of books that we had plans to read. So I love that you mentioned learning, because this is, if you're not doing anything else, I feel like we are wasting this season if we're not learning. And that's not to, obviously what we're going through now is terrible with those that are, losing life and dealing with family members being sick, but at the same time, we have to live through each season. And I think we have to understand how we can lead through each season. And for some of us, this might need to be a season of learning and reflection, like you mentioned. So that's
absolutely. Well, and like you said, the world is going to go on, and we may get back to a semblance of, schools and churches and our brick and mortar businesses in the downtown areas. But at the same time, they will be changed. I think things are different, how people will approach life after this. As you were talking, and I know I put in the blog post about, this was the summer for the Olympics. This was the 2020 Olympics in July. And, those world-class athletes, maybe for the first time or the last time, have been training for gold, and have to adapt for a whole other year to, so it doesn't mean they can't do it. It doesn't mean, they haven't already qualified or whatever else, but they literally have to train how they work out, how they diet, how they exercise. They got to redo their thing. And I think all of us, in the church world, the business sector, we have to figure out how to make good of this. Where can we still improve? Where can we grow? Because let's say if we're not adapting, then we're going the other direction. And even after this is all said and done, we'll be in trouble.
Yeah, absolutely. Point number 3 was lead with clarity. Lead with clarity. And right now, this point really stood out to me because, gosh, there are so many mixed messages, even from governments. The message, you're in Missouri, I'm in Illinois. Obviously, the message that we hear from our governor is far different than what we hear from our president. And it's, just very much even in that on social media, so many, the waters are so muddy with what we're being told, and information and content and all that stuff is just so muddy. So explain lead with clarity and why that is so important.
Well, and that first line of that section that came to my mind was that when life is uncertain, leaders must be even more clear, right? Because lack of clarity just muddies up the waters. And you just said, with social media and 24/7 news on whatever flavor you prefer, whatever your lean is towards, everybody is constantly giving us news, and they need to make articles. They want to drag your attention. So, they're saying things that are meant to scare you, things that are meant to make you agree with them. And, as people come in and whether it be from the highest office in the land or the local principal or pastor, people are listening to what they're saying when they give an update, or they read an update on the emails or the Facebook, and they're going through your family. wants you as the mom or dad to lead with clarity. And I think that if we can give clear responses, to pressing questions, we can alleviate a lot of anxiety and fear people have. Because that fire is lit and it is, ignited everywhere. And I think, if you're a boss, people want to know, are they going to get a paycheck, or is there a fear of layoffs? If you're in the, if you've got some older family members who are susceptible to sickness, it's like, hey, what's the trends in vaccinations? Are we finding some healthy, treatments that work? In the church world, are we being good stewards? Are we meeting people? And what if there's, pastoral care needs or sickness or funerals, and people need, group life? How are we still being the body of Christ? I keep hearing this, it's a fluid situation. I mean, understatement of the century, right? Yeah. It's just like every 2 hours, it could be something different. So to make a plan every month, every week, when is this over? I mean, oh my gosh. But it doesn't mean that you still can't be precise. It doesn't mean that you can't share what that the people need to know. It doesn't mean you verbally vomit. And I think this is important too. When I think about leading with clarity, don't act like you have all the answers, because you don't.
Yeah.
But I think it's important and imperative that leaders look like they are trying to figure it out. Be a credible source. Make sure that when you're getting your facts, go to the source, go to the CDC, go to, some of the government, places, check with your governor. Don't just look on your Twitter feed. Don't just go to your CNN or Fox News or whatever. Dig in for yourself and do your best to talk to doctors, talk to, nurses who are, working in the frontline stuff going on. But I think that's one of the things, is that whenever you can deliver your information with clear, concise, and confidence, then you breed confidence in your people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love it. And there, when you kind of alluded to that, you said when leaders cannot give a clear response to pressing questions, it breeds anxiety and can create a lack of trust in your organization. Absolutely. And that's so true. And it was interesting because my job mainly focuses around young adults. I've been doing, looking at a lot of the different polls and research and data that are coming out of places like Barna and things like that on how they are reacting to all of this. And it's interesting. One of the polls that just came out, I think it was from Fuller Institute, actually, was that this has now, it's outside of just millennials or Generation Z, who we kind of labeled as the anxious generations. Now they are seeing anxiety in Generation X and beyond, those same levels, obviously, because people are worried about, getting sick, their jobs, financial situations, the list goes on of the things we're worried about. But if we thought we were in an anxious society and culture before this, imagine what we're going to come out of this as. And so it's just interesting, knowing that our people, your customers, your congregation, whoever you're leading, is already anxious. They're already nervous. So how can we be clear and not add to that? Because like you said, when we start throwing out mixed messages or showing that we haven't done our part in doing our research to actively describe where our organization or business is at, all that does is just add to the high anxiety levels that are already there.
Yep, totally agree.
So let's go on to the fourth point. People are watching you. People are watching you. Now, as both of us are in the ministry world, we're in the Christian world, so this idea that people are watching is nothing new to us and how we have to kind of function in our day-to-day lives. But maybe for the first time, somebody that owns a small business really feels like they are now on a pedestal that they've never felt like before. So what do you mean by people are watching you?
Well, and I think that's one of the things that is challenging about leadership, is that leadership you didn't get into leadership to go unnoticed. You have stuff and you are trying to navigate through all of this yourself, because you got yourself, you've got a family, you've got a future, you've got finances. But whenever you're a leader, you are responsible. And maybe this is kind of what you were saying a moment ago, is that maybe for the first time, you're more than just the person with the paycheck, and you're more than just, I mean, you literally are responsible for the livelihood of those people who are in your organization, who work for you, who are in your church, and they're part of your congregation, or maybe your staff or your team. And they're looking at you and they're thinking, okay, what you do impacts me. And so I think people are always watching you in leadership, but I think especially when the chips are down, they're looking to see how you handle adversity. How do you handle the stress level and the anxieties? Are you willing to admit that you got it, but that you're coping and you're learning how to deal with it? Or are you trying to mask it and fake it? Because it's like you said, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter to what degree are you struggling with those things? Because this is hard. But you may be practicing social distancing, but you can't distance yourself from your leadership. People are looking at you and they're watching what you're going to do, and they're looking to you to help guide them through this, because they need you. They need strong leadership. It is in the toughest times that the strongest leadership, the most confident and reassuring leadership is needed, because people always need a leader, but they especially need it in times like this, in these unprecedented times.
Yeah, and I want to go back. What do you think is because I know there's a lot of leaders that are probably struggling with this, as far as is there a balance? Is there a correct balance between, being that positive, strong leader, but at the same time knowing that there is probably a certain level of fear and unknown on the other side of that? How do we balance those two things?
Oh, that's a wonderful question. And, and like we said, we, as an Enneagram 7, if you're not an Enneagram junkie yet, I mean, you have plenty of time right now, get in on it. But, we're fun loving people, so as Enneagram 7, we are enthusiasts. We love to feel good, to have fun, to have a party. We love to engage with people. And one of the negative sides of being an Enneagram 7 is that we can tend to kind of overlook and not deal with issues as they come. We like to write them off and kind of like skim over it and have fun. So obviously, for people like you and I, this is an even greater challenge, because we might be tempted to just be positive. One of my spiritual gifts is an encourager. And so for me, it's like, I want to encourage people. I want people to have hope for tomorrow. I want people to believe in themselves and do the best job they can. But part of being an encourager sometimes is just flat out being real and talking about the severity of things. And, I loved how so many churches, and you and I talked about this before, off of camera, obviously, before weeks ago, how churches, when they first made those decisions to shut the doors, the balancing act of, we do want to honor God, and God is bigger than all of our problems. But at the same time, we do come under authority that is over us, like Paul says. And then the same times too is like, are we going to listen to authorities? Are we going to care more about us getting in the seats and making sure we operate as normal and risking people's health? I think, again, talk about people watching you and balancing that. Hey, we're going to be honest, we're going to be encouraging, but we're also going to be real. This is a big deal. And people, especially when you're in the people business, people matter too much to risk it. And so I'm really proud of churches, the way they've handled it. Some were super quick, some were very calculated and wanted to make sure they made the right choice. But I think churches have done a pretty admirable job, and businesses too. I think about how many businesses may not recover from this, and maybe some churches too. I don't know, but I mean, this is big stuff, and so it needs great leadership.
Yeah, absolutely. To kind of to pivot a little bit, obviously this is kind of unearthed a lot of different things that are involving our society, and whether our culture and our churches and our businesses. But what do you think are some of the things that the church has put on the back burner or tried to avoid maybe for a long time, that COVID-19 has now made, blaringly apparent?
Yeah. I think every church can improve their digital space one way or another. Some churches have been on it for a long time, and, they've kind of set the bar really, really high for churches. I think about Elevation Church. I've loved their internet, their live stream, the way they've kind of done the online campus so well for so long. But I think even churches like that will improve even more so. I know the church where you're serving at Central, you've done a great job for years. And I think this is a chance for, churches in your space that have the people and you've got the chops kind of built up, will just go even further. I do think that any church that's been Jones from Facebook, however long, a year or so ago, talk about how if you've not gotten to the party yet, you're not on time. Like you're late. And so I think those who are now, because man, you think about every church and every denomination, non-denomination. They're trying to figure out, how do we get a phone up and hit live stream? Facebook Live. How do we connect with people who've only ever known face-to-face, small, Sunday school, small group, getting to church, and that's how we give, that's how we engage. And, now you don't have a choice. And I don't think you have a choice going forward. I think churches are going to realize that digital discipleship is worth staffing. It's worth finances and budgeting. It's worth really kind of throwing some darts at and being innovators in, even more so. Because like the business sector, they already know that. And they're doing that more and more. But I think that's everybody's going to up their digital game.
Yeah. And it's tough because probably, I know we're all hoping that this ends soon and that we, get back to whatever new normal looks like soon. But there's going to be a lot of people that it's probably not going to be an instant, let's flood back into buildings. There's going to be a lot of people that are going to still be, very nervous, anxious to go out and be in large groups of people. And so, I don't think that we can just abandon all the new tools and things that we've learned through this time, because now we're back to meeting in buildings, because there's still going to be a large segment of people that aren't going to want to be in big groups of people for a long time, probably. And so figuring out how to maneuver that. And last question, we'll kind of close up from this, but what are some of the positives that you hope to see come from this pandemic from a leadership perspective?
Yeah. Well, I think the biggest one that I am foreseeing is that and it should touch close to your area of expertise in ministry, is I think that young leaders will get a chance to really step up and I hope senior leaders engage their young leadership and foster young leadership in this, because we are literally dealing with stuff that the younger generation, those millennials and Gen Zers, like this is how they communicate. Like this is how they operate and navigate through, whether it be dating or gaming online or friendships or, social media platforms. This is old hat to them. They're ready to move on to something else, I'm sure. And so I think if organizations and churches and, look to some of those young leaders with a good head on their shoulders, get them involved, get them a seat at the table or a better seat at the table, make sure that they're not just an afterthought, but that they're literally helping and shape. Because that's technology and media and music and movies, it's geared towards young people. And so they really have a greater idea of the barometer of where things are heading and things are now. So I think this is a great chance for them to flex their muscles and to be shown some responsibility. And hopefully that will continue and we'll see more people leading young and leading up. And we'll see both generations, declaring to one another the great wonders of our God.
Yeah, that would be a great outcome. I think that all of us would be very thrilled with if we can end with that. So, Jeremy, thank you for your time. Your insight and your wisdom is always greatly cherished on this end, and I'm sure anyone who is listening or watching today will be glad they did. Why don't you give us where can we find? I know that you've got a website and a blog. Where can we find you on social media and that sort of thing?
Yeah. My website is Jeremy Redman, REDMAN.me. You can find blog posts and YouTube videos and contact info on me there. You can follow me on Instagram or Twitter at jredman8, the number 8. And then you can find me on Facebook, and you can see what's going on with me and my family, but I pretty much just post about all the weirdness that happens in our life. So, yeah, that's about it. So.
Well, again, I appreciate you contributing to Leading Young through your post, and again, your many years of mentorship and wisdom that you have shared with not only me but many others, but in this specific segment, me. So we appreciate that. And again, if you're listening, watching out there, be sure to be subscribed to leading-young.com. That is where you can find our podcasts, our blogs. At all times, we're also on social media at leading_young on Instagram and Twitter, and Leading Young blog on Facebook. So we'd love to have you join, follow, like, subscribe there so that you can stay up to date with all that's happening at Leading Young. And so this is Eric signing off. This has been another Leading Young podcast by young leaders for all leaders. Thank you. Have a great day.